Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today, going along with the theme that I started yesterday, or I guess whenever I posted that video, I want to talk about the first thing that you should create within Dreams. Now, I don't say that as firmly as I just jokingly did say it, because obviously the first thing that you create within Dreams should be something that you want to create within Dreams. These are just a lot of suggestions that I have put together that I believe would have helped me when I was starting to create within Dreams. Now, if you did just get the game, if you are just starting it based on the retail release, or if you got early access very late on and didn't have a lot of time to play with the create mode, you're probably where I was about a year ago. Which is to say, I struggled a lot with Dreams. It took me a long time to get used to the controls, it took me a long time to really mentally switch over from Little Big Planet, which I was a huge fan of, and I mean, it took me a long time just to get into it. And that's not to say I didn't love Dreams from the beginning. I thought that the dream surfing and the things people were posting online were incredible. But having started when beta started, like, right away, and then in early access, I didn't have a lot of things to go off of. But that being said, a year later, there's a lot more to start with, and there's a lot more that's going on in the community already when you have the game. And so, me being one of the people that's been around that long, I thought I would give some tips that hopefully will help some of you out there. But again, like I said, it really is up to you how you create within Dreams. This is just some tips I'm giving based on my experience. But if you do enjoy this sort of video, please leave a like down below. If you did just get Dreams, let me know what you think of it so far. And yeah, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos about Dreams. I post a lot about that and Little Big Planet and various other video game discussion type videos. So if that does sound interesting, feel free to hit subscribe, but just no pressure, like, at all. Haven't even finished this video if you're not already subscribed. Or maybe you have been watching my videos. If you have been watching my videos and enjoying them and haven't subscribed, I mean, like, what are you doing? You still haven't made a YouTube account? Anyways, let's get right to the video.
So to start, I want to restate that disclaimer. In general, the excitement of something that you particularly want to make will more than likely outweigh any benefit of a somewhat easier to create in genre. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Also, this video is focused on your first scene, not your first sculpt. I'm sure by now most anybody watching has at least played around for a bit, or at least that's what I did when I started, but this is about a complete scene. Lastly, I want you to know that this is my advice from my experience. Everyone's experience will be different because we're all different learners and come from different backgrounds, but hopefully I can be of some help to you at each stage of your first creation. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips for the planning stage when deciding 1, what you should focus on while creating, 2, what kind of seats are easy to start with, and 3, how to limit your scope without boring yourself. And of course, 4, some other do's and don'ts to avoid getting stuck that I learned when I got stuck a lot. Now, first and foremost, the intent of this first level should be to learn the controls of Dreams, and I mean the DualShock controls. They're much easier to learn than the gesture-filled move controls, at least in my opinion, and you'll be using the DualShock for the majority of your time outside of sculpting, so that's probably my strongest suggestion. I know that there is a new control scheme that completely eliminates motion controls from the equation here, and I think that that is very useful for people that really don't like the motion controls and give them a shot, but just are never able to get used to them. But I think for the most part, that is mostly useful for gamers with disabilities that have difficulty using the motion controls. I actually ended up using this a little bit in a recent sculpt because I do have a bit of a tremor with my hands, and so motion controls, as you can imagine, are not always the best. But again, for the majority of people and for the majority of time, I would recommend that you do learn these motion controls because they are very snappy, and in general, I think it is the best way to control the game. But to start off, make sure that you've done at least the first tutorial or two, so you actually know how to control the camera and your imp, and so you actually have this whole sculpting and scene mode unlocked. But even after that, there is going to be a steep learning curve. Still, imp drift aside, like I said, the controls are actually very snappy once you get used to them, and worry not, because you will get used to them. I can say that because a weekend I was literally ready to give up and call that it was just too difficult to use because of the controls, but a week later, after that, I was using them like a pro. It really does just take practice, and I know that's frustrating to hear, but trust me, it's worth it for how quick they can be once you get used to them. Now, as for what to make Natural scenes tend to be a good way to get used to the flow of creating within Dreams. You're going to be doing a lot of cloning and fine-tuning no matter what you decide to create, and natural scenes tend to be more forgiving and require a lot less fine-tuning than, say, modern architecture, because they are inherently more random. But again, it really is up to you. For example, my third scene was modern architecture, I guess you could call it, from SpongeBob. So it really can be anything as long as you don't set your sights too high. And that's a big point too. I would never tell someone to dumb down their first creation because there's nothing to say that this first scene won't turn into the big incredible project that they've always dreamed of. Hence the name of the game, but that's going to be in the future. If you're trying to design the logic and animations for a third-person shooter set in a space station while still learning the camera controls on create mode, well, you're going to have a bad time and you're going to get frustrated. So feel free to create a scene or some assets that could be used for that game, but again, I recommend that you do set your sights on a specific part of that scene to begin with. A forest shrine surrounded by trees, for example, or an abandoned 7-Eleven with blood on the walls. One room in a dungeon full of spiders. These are all kind of around the scope that I would recommend, as weird as they are, but just pay particular attention to the amount of unique assets that you'll have to use, as that will take up most of your time. More than likely, your first creation won't be super focused on gameplay as well, so I'm not going to talk about selecting your character from the community, let alone character creation, but if you really want to make it playable, my recommendation is to grab a platforming character and work on making a platformer. Mario-type games are pretty easy to QA and troubleshoot, and there's actually a fantastic Mario character on the community that is frighteningly similar to the N64 days. But like I said, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to make. I will, however, talk about a few more do's and don'ts for this first scene, and to a certain extent beyond that first scene. So definitely do try creating a simple asset or two yourself by using the sculpting tools. Emphasis on simple though. Turn up the looseness in the options of that sculpt as high as you need to keep it simple and good looking, and equally as important, do check out the painting tool alongside the sculpting tool so you can get an idea of what works better in a painting versus in a sculpt. It's rather intuitive how the two work well for different things, so make sure you keep in mind both to avoid getting frustrated. I struggled, for example, with creating floor tiles because I was still struggling to use the nudge controls at the time. I just wasn't used to them yet. I found out that you can actually use the surface snap and the ruler tool with a painting to paint on the floor I had created and to create the tiles that way. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best way to do it, just a reminder to keep your options open. But this was supposed to be about things to avoid too, right? Well, in general, when you're still learning the controls, sculpting and painting will be even more time-consuming than they are for experienced creators, and they're already time-consuming for experienced creators. So likewise, I highly, highly recommend that you do begin by using mostly community creations and don't try to make everything yourself. As you explore the community games, you'll notice that 99.9% of them are made by more than one person, and that means that the game designer is using assets from other creators. Follow that example. There's seriously no shame at all in using other people's creations, as they will get credit if you decide to post your game online. And moreover, creators post these assets for the sole purpose of other creators using them. Even if you really, really want to create a lot of unique assets in the future, at least use community assets as placeholders for now. I mean, that's what I do a lot when I think that there's something that I want to make in the future, but it just helps you continue to move forward. And totally feel free to modify these new placeholder assets to your needs to create non-placeholder assets. I do this all the time. In my 1-hour challenge video, for example, I actually trimmed back the trees I was using in order to give them, well, the player that is, more headspace so that they could jump between them easier. I also cut a hole in the stone wall I was using and took a few different parts of other assets and used them in places that they weren't originally intended to be used for. It's just easy modifications that can really let you keep going without getting too caught up on the small details. All of these things are incredibly useful, at least as far as I've found within my own creations.
So in general, I think that the first thing that you create really should be something that you have been thinking of for a while. I know a lot of people haven't been thinking of creations since they were 8 years old, like I have, but if you have been thinking of games you wanted to make since then, definitely start with those, even if it is that ridiculously complex example I gave early on in the video. But just don't expect it to be done in a week, and don't expect it to be done in a day, and also don't expect to be working as fast now as a new creator as you will be in a few months. I speak from experience here, but honestly, it's so surprising how well the controls work now, and I remember, because I posted about it, how frustrated I was with the controls. You can go back and ask some of my friends. My friend Andrew, who also creates Within Dreams, was there as I was complaining about it for literally a week straight, and trying to make videos at the same time. And it wasn't the fact that I was sick and tired of the controls, it was the fact that I wasn't giving it enough time to get used to. I was expecting to have the experience that I had in Little Big Planet already play into the controls within Dreams, but they're so different that that's just not the case. But definitely let me know what you guys think, how you're adapting to the controls. If you've been around for a while, hopefully something here may have helped you that you didn't think about, but regardless, let me know what helped you when you were starting to learn the controls of Dreams, or various other aspects of the game creation process when it comes to Dreams. And definitely also let me know if anybody wants to see a video about this in reference to like the Move controllers. I do have the Move controllers and I use them for sculpting somewhat regularly, and I enjoy them a lot, but I don't use them anywhere near enough to the point where somebody that plays it anywhere near as much as I do would need them. It's really not necessary, and I feel like a lot of people don't have them and just don't really need to get them, so I don't want to make a video about that unless people actually want to see it. But maybe someone will comment and you'll see it in the future. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying Dreams, and let me know what you think so far in the comments down below. But for now, that's all for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one, which will probably be tomorrow-ish. I don't know what the editing schedule in this videos is, because I don't know what my own schedule for these videos are yet. Full-time jobs are stressful, in addition to whatever you would call this. But hope you're all doing well. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. But for now, goodbye! Oh, God. I hope that rain isn't really infuriating, because like every time I hear it drop, I'm like, oh... It's gonna mess up the entirety of this audio, which is already hard to control, considering how depressing rain can be. Bye, guys.